DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned in to the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us out there, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together into one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy. Made a book about this, hardcover book, by the way. A university, an entire framework, an entire system that you can follow on your own that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is why you need to execute some of your habits. Now, this is a topic that I talked about in my book, Work on Your Game, which you can get at workonyourgamebook.com, about habits being your employees, and that every single day is employee review day. In other words, looking at your habits, because your habits are the things that create your life, right? The majority of the things that we do in life and the majority of who we are is not based on random once in a while things that we do. It's based on the consistent things that we do, often unconsciously, that we're not even thinking about them. We just do them automatically, and we call those habits. So every day, because of this, understanding this, every day we need to be looking at our habits, looking at ourselves, first of all, in our lives, asking ourselves, where's the conflict between what we want and where we are? And then asking ourselves, what habits are contributing to this conflict? What habits do we need to get rid of? What habits do we need to change? What habits do we need to implement? What habits do we need to start using that we may not be using right now at this point? So today we're talking about some of those habits that are going to be eliminated, some ingrained actions and thoughts that are no longer serving you. So today I'm going to explain to you why going into a new year, going into a new project, going into just a new version of you, anytime that you decide to do so. And if you go get my book, The Mirror of Motivation, at mirrorofmotivation.com, get the book free, just cover the shipping. You can step into a new version of you anytime that you want to, because that book will give you the frameworks for changing who you are being, which will in turn bleed into your actions, which will then create the results that you want. So today let's talk about eliminating some habits and thoughts and anything else that is no longer serving you, why you need to do this, just in case you were wondering whether or not you should get rid of something. You've been thinking about it, but you're not quite sure yet. Today, I'm gonna help give you a little push over the edge, off the fence, to do what you got to do. Point number one, topic again, why you need to kill some of your habits. Routines have their season. Every routine has its season, and some seasons last longer than others. And when that season is over, however, it's time for you to move on. Simple as that. I had a routine of waking up early in the morning, and I would go to the gym to work on my game, work on my basketball game, and I would get there at certain times. I knew what time the gym opened. I knew how long I was going to take to get my workout. I would get done doing my basketball workout. I would leave that gym, and then I would go to another gym, and I would do my weightlifting, strength training workout. Then later on in the day, I would do my conditioning workout. That was the routine. That routine worked for me, and there were times when, depending on which gyms I was going to, I might change it up. I might go to the basketball gym in the morning, then go home. I might take a nap early morning, or late morning rather. Then I would go to the weightlifting gym, and I would do the weightlifting, strength training, and conditioning all at once later on in the afternoon, maybe 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That was the routine at that time. Those routines worked for that season, and that season was Dre being a basketball player. I'm not a basketball player anymore. I still wake up early in the morning, and I still start my day at the gym, but it's not the same thing. I don't go to the gym and play basketball and do dunks and dribbling drills anymore. I go to the gym and do other things. I don't spend as much time overall in the gym over the course of a day that I used to. I don't take naps in the middle of the day anymore like I used to. At that time, when that was the season for me to be doing the thing that I was doing, that made sense, but that season ended, and it was time for me to move on to something else. When the season is over, folks, it's time for you to move on to something else. You have to be cognizant, and you have to recognize when the season is over. The challenge is habits are habits for a reason, because this sounds like a pretty simple concept, but habits become habits because we often don't notice that the season has ended, yet we are still taking the same habitual actions as though the season has not ended. So we just keep doing something, though is not really doing what we needed it before. Like if I was still going to the basketball gym and practicing basketball for an hour or two every morning, and then working out 2 to 3 times a day, even though I'm not even playing a sport anymore, that might be maybe I would feel great. Maybe I'll be in great shape. Maybe I still feel like a great I could go play in a great play basketball and be the best player on the court. Maybe I would still feel like that, but if it's not contributing to what I'm doing now, I'm trying to run a business now, I probably need to take some of that time investment and energy investment and attention investment and put that towards business. Doesn't mean I'm going to neglect fitness and just become out of shape. I think I'm in pretty good shape. If you see me, you see a picture of me or a video of me, I think I look like I'm in pretty good shape. I look like I go to the gym, but I'm not in basketball game shape, and that's okay because I'm not trying to play in any basketball games. So you have to recognize rather, when has the season ended for this thing, and it's time for us to change these habits up. And even though this sounds like a very simple concept, this is a challenge for a lot of people because habits, again, they become ingrained. And when we get these habits ingrained into us, once they become a habit, it's already ingrained. It's hard for us to break the habit simply because it takes a lot less energy and a lot less attention to just continually do something that is habitual than it takes to recognize that a habit needs to be broken, and then to actually break the habit, and then to actually replace that old habit with something new. That's a 3-step process that you have to follow when you want to change a habit. But if you don't want to change a habit, it's a 0-step process. You can just continue living as you've been living. So the energy investment it requires to recognize, remove, and replace a habit is a lot bigger. I mean, you're comparing it to 0 than the energy investment it requires to just keep exercising a habit. And habits, we begin to do them with a very little energy necessary. We do them very efficiently because as you do something over and over again, anything that you've done over and over again, you probably don't even think about it as you're doing it. It's just something that you do. It seems automatic. It takes a little bit of energy, but not much because you don't even have to think about it. So it takes very little mental energy. Even the physical energy, it becomes so easy because you're doing it automatically. You're doing it instinctively. Think about when was the last time you actually thought about tying your shoelaces? Any of you have on shoes that have laces today. When's the last time you consciously thought about lacing up your shoes? You don't really think about it. It's something that you automatically do. You do it every time you put your shoes on, I would guess. But you don't really have to think about it anymore. And it doesn't even feel like it's costing you any energy. But when you first had to learn how to do it, it was costing you a good amount of energy simply because you had to really think about it. You weren't that good at it yet. It hadn't become habitual, but it quickly became habitual. Now you've been doing it. Who knows? How many times have you laced up your shoes or tied your shoes over the course of your life? Hundreds, thousands of times, and not even really thought about it. Now, hopefully that season doesn't end. I mean, unless you start wearing shoes that don't have laces. But the whole point is, once you recognize that habit needs to be changed, it takes a good amount of effort compared to the no effort that was required for you to keep the habit as it is. And this is the reason why many people don't change their habits. Many people just get to a certain habit and they just stay with it the rest of their lives. Not because they're not because they're 100% unaware that the habit is out of season. Not because they are incapable energy-wise and attention-wise of actually changing it. And it's not even because they won't be able to find something to replace the old habit. It's simply because all of those things, all 3 of those steps require a certain amount of work, require a certain amount of effort and energy, and everybody ain't willing to do it. This is just a simple truth about human beings, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that I was on a training call for Work on Your Game University recently, and someone asked the question, why do people just not want to do the work? Why do people not want to have the energy? Why do people not want to do these things? It was something I had mentioned, and it seemed like a pretty simple concept, and someone asked, well, yeah, it seems like a simple idea that everybody can understand. Why do people not want to do it, Dre? And the answer is there are 3 common things about human beings that you need to keep in mind. Number 1, people are lazy. Number 2, people do not read. And number 3, people do not think. So anything that you can offer people, if you want to move a mass of people to do something, or you want to move a mass of people just to have their attention, offer them something that requires no energy, no reading, and no thinking, and they will follow along to you. All right, I don't know what exactly that's going to be, but that is a hint that will work. No reading, no thinking, no energy, people will do it. Now, if you ask for any one of those 3, you're going to lose a certain percentage of the people. You ask for 2 or 3, you're going to lose a bigger percentage. If you ask for all 3, all right, then you're asking for a very tiny niche audience, relatively speaking. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is why you need to kill some of your habits. Number 2, many things in life that feel good and feel safe to us, they aren't actually doing anything for us. But they allow us to feel busy. They allow us to look like and feel like we are active. And they allow us to, check off of our list of things that we're doing. The problem is they're not actually producing anything useful for us. I mean, this is pretty much a good definition of habits, a layman's definition of habits. They feel good, they feel safe, They're not actually doing anything for us. Some of our habits, not all of them, not actually doing anything for us. We can be busy because we're doing it. We feel like we're active. We can check it off the list that we did something, but they're not actually doing anything for us. These are the habits that you need to get rid of. Anything that fits the description that I just gave you. Everyone here is familiar with the concept of the comfort zone. And as anyone in personal growth or personal development will tell you, all the growth happens where? We can all say it together. Outside of your comfort zone. Your habits are things that you're already comfortable with. Now, some habits you should keep. All right, not every habit is one that you need to get rid of. Just because something's in your comfort zone doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. All right, tying your shoes is a pretty good thing. You probably don't want to step outside of the comfort zone of no longer tying your shoes. You're going to lose your shoelaces. Probably your shoes won't be as functional. They probably won't look as good without those shoelaces. So tying your shoes is in your comfort zone. You should keep doing it. If you bathe every day or shower every day or do your hair or put makeup on or make your bed or go to the gym and work out or you eat food or you drink water or you take care of your kids or you walk the dog, those things are all within your comfort zone. You should probably keep doing those things. Those are serving your life in a positive way, even though they may be boring, even though they're habitual, even though you don't really have to think about them when you're doing them. It may not be so intellectually or emotionally stimulating, but they are serving you in a positive way. So just because it's in your comfort zone doesn't mean you should get rid of it. I want to make sure I'm on the record as saying that. However, there are some things that are in your comfort zone that you should get rid of because even though you're doing them consistently, they're not doing anything for you. So you're giving your energy to them, but they're not producing a return on investment. And Work on Your Game University, that's the third step. The first step is develop your game. Next one is show your game. Third one is get the ROI from your game. If the things that you are doing, you're putting time and energy into it, but you're not getting anything tangible out of it or anything useful to you out of it, why do you keep doing it? Because it allows you to feel, here's why, I'm going to answer the question. Because it allows you to feel busy. You know you're doing something. This is what we call busy work. When I was in school, for example, the teacher sometimes would give the class busy work. Just something for the kids to do that wasn't really producing any kind of outcome for the teacher or for the students, but it was something just to keep the students occupied so the teacher could do whatever they needed to do at that moment. So it allows you to feel busy, gives you some busy work. You feel active. You could check it off the list and say, hey, I did this thing today, even though that thing is not taking you anywhere that you want to go. It's not producing any useful result for you. The challenge for many of us when we are stuck in a habit that fits the description that I've just given is that we are not consciously aware of this description that I just gave. Because when we become consciously aware, then we'll start questioning it. We'll do something different. If you're a person who listens to this show, then you're the type of person who would do something different. Now, some people who don't listen to this show or wouldn't be attracted to a show called Work on Your Game, they might become consciously aware of it, but then not do anything about it because they just don't want to change. Because they realize the effort, they can calculate the effort that would be required for them to change. This is why habits must be examined and held up to the light, everybody. You got to look at, again, this is the way that you know whether or not you need to get rid of a habit. Look at your life, yourself, what you're doing, your career, your finances, your business, your relationship, your whatever is important to you. I'm sure there are many things. And then look at your ideal, where you actually want to be in terms of that area of life versus where you are. And then note the difference between where you want to be and where you are. And then ask yourself, all right, which habits are helping me get closer to this ideal and which habits are not. And understand that every habit you have is either in category 1 or category 2. And the ones that are not helping you get closer to where you want to be, you need to get rid of these habits. And they need to be replaced. They can be replaced with a different habit. Or maybe they can be replaced by you doing more of one of the habits that's working. So if you have 2 habits and you delete one of them, then maybe you can replace that deleted habit with a new habit, or you can just double up on doing the one habit that remains so it fills that vacuum. But either way, that vacuum needs to be filled. This is why anybody here who has quit something like smoking, or you quit drinking, or you quit gambling, or you quit your addiction to pornography, I would guess, and I've heard this from people who talk about these kind of programs that people go through, is that they tell you to replace that thing. So if you are a person who smokes a lot and now you don't smoke anymore, now you got to replace the smoking. What can you replace the smoking with? Maybe you'll eat candy. Maybe you'll chew gum. Maybe you'll go to the gym. Maybe you'll watch TV. I don't know. Anyone who's been through a program like that, you can tell me. But you have to fill that vacuum. Now you created a vacuum because you had this habit of creating this space of 15 minutes, an hour every single day of doing this thing that you realized was no longer serving you. Great, you recognized it. Second thing, you did something about it. Excellent. So you're already above 98% of the population. Now, the final step is you got to replace that vacuum. Now you created a vacuum by deleting that habit. What are you going to do instead? This is when you hold your habits up to the light and you examine them. This is the final step that ties it all together. Some of our habits just become comfortable and they maintain their spot in our lives by default simply because we're not paying attention. We're not conscious of what the habit is. And habits by default are unconscious. We unconsciously just do certain things. I have unconscious verbal habits. If you listen to the show enough, there are certain words that I use all the time. There's certain speech patterns that I have. There's a certain way that I talk. There's a certain way that I explain things that are habitual. Now, are they hurting me? No. Are they helping me get to where I want to get to? Well, it's helping me put out more content here and spread and reach more of an audience. Yes. So I would say they are positive habits that are working for me. But if I ever recognize a habit that's not working, let's say I was listening to, once I was on somebody's show and I used the same word. I think the word I used was absolutely or exactly, one of those words. I'm listening to the interview that I did with this person. It was only about 30 minutes and I used the word, it was either absolutely or exactly, one of those words. I used that word like 6 times in 30 minutes. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Why the hell do I keep saying that word? And if I ever talk to this person again, I'm going to mention that next time I speak to this individual. But it was funny that I caught myself having that habit. Even though I don't use that word that often here, I don't think I have any specific word that I use over and over here on this show, except maybe the word I. But anyway, sometimes we become comfortable and allow habits to stay where they are because we haven't paid attention to them. So one of the first steps in catching anything that's been unconscious in our lives, which makes up the majority of our lives, is that we got to be conscious about it. So in other words, we got to start looking in the mirror, looking at ourselves and really self-evaluating. Self-examining our own lives, our own thoughts, our energies, our actions to figure out what has created the life that we're in right now and what do we need to change in order to get a different result. Point number 3. The topic here today is why you need to kill some of your habits. Number 3, because you do not have and are not getting the results that you want yet. I mean, this is a good enough reason. And when you don't have and aren't getting the results that you want yet, that means that some of your consistent unconscious actions must be changed in order to create a change in results. This is the entire concept of why your habits must be examined on a consistent basis is right here in this sentence. I'm going to repeat it. And again, I gave a whole section to this in my book, Work on Your Game, which you can get at workonyourgamebook.com. So let me say this is point number 3 once again. Because you do not have and are not getting the results that you want yet, which means some of your consistent and unconscious actions must change in order to create change in results. If you want different results, you must have different actions. Is there anyone who disagrees with that concept? If you want something different, you got to do something different. As we all know, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if you want a different result, you got to do different things. But understand something, people. 85% of the things that you are doing are not the things that you are consciously thinking about. It's not the stuff that you think about doing. That's only 15% of your actions. The other 85% of your actions are things that you don't even think about, but you're doing them all the time. This is, would you agree that 85 is bigger than 15? So if I said to you, you could either change 85% of your life or you could change 15% of your life, and you really want to make a change in your life, which one would you rather change, the 85% or the 15%? Now, if you're listening to this show, I'm going to assume that you're smart. You understand math. This is not a trick question. 85 is bigger than 15. So you probably want to change the 85% because it will have a bigger impact than changing just 15%, assuming that everything's weighted the same, all other things being equal, okay? Of course you would change the 85%. And here's the rub. 85 are unconscious. You're not even thinking about them. You're not even aware of them. You're doing them all the time. You're probably doing one of them right now. You're not even aware that you're doing it. So you must make the 85%, the unconscious, you must make it conscious by you self-evaluating, self-examining, and really looking into yourself, looking deep into yourself and deep into your life. As much time as we spend on our devices every day looking at everybody else's life and looking at other people's interpretation of our lives, you really need to take some time looking into yourself, because the 85%, that's never going to change by looking at what other people are doing. You got to look at what you're doing. Most of our lives the majority of your life is a result of your habits. It is not a result of the random one-time things that you have done, one-time things that have happened to you. You might think that, but it's absolutely not true. It's the stuff that we do all the time, every day, often without thinking about the fact that we're actually doing it. When you change these things, everything else will change from the ground up, because your habits are the foundation of who you are. Your habits are the foundation of how you look, how you walk, how you talk, the people you associate with, the energy that you are emanating, the people that you attract to you, the people that you are attracted to are all based on your habitual energies, not on the things that you just randomly come up with every now and then. Or your New Year's resolutions and your new ideas of ways that you're going to change and the things that you're going to do different in your life that you just come up with when you're inspired or motivated. Those things are not the things that make your life what they are. What makes your life what they are your foundational, baseline, habitual thoughts, energies, and actions. Now, can the conscious things get into the unconscious? Absolutely. I wrote a whole book about this called The Mental Workbook. You can get that at workonmygame.com/workbook. How you do it is by consciously inundating yourself with certain energies, certain thoughts, certain actions to the point that they become habitual, certain ways of thinking until it becomes habitual and you start thinking that way all the time without even having to tell yourself to think that way. Again, this is something that where you take things from the conscious to the unconscious. Again, you can get that in the Mental Workbook, which is at workonmygame.com/workbook, or when you claim your free copy of the Mirror of Motivation at mirrorofmotivation.com. This is the best deal. On the very next page, after you claim your copy of the book, you give us your shipping information and all that. On the very next page, we're going to make you an offer to get a copy of my hardcover book, Work on Your Game, and the Mental Workbook together. We call that the Mental Game Advanced Bundle, and that's the best deal you'll get on both of those books put together than anywhere else in the world. So again, that's at mirrorofmotivation.com. All that being said, let's recap today's class, which is why you need to kill, eliminate, delete, destroy some of your habits. Again, this is something I gave a whole section to in my book, Work on Your Game, about habits being your employees, and understand when you're the boss and you're paying these employees, you have a right to hire and fire them as you see fit. Today, let's talk about why some of them need to get fired. Number one, every routine has its season. Some seasons last longer than others, but when the season is over, it is time for you to move on. Many times we don't notice that the season has ended, but we keep doing the same things. Number two, many things that feel good and safe to us aren't actually doing anything for us, but they allow us to feel busy and active. We could check them off the list, even though they're giving no real return on investment. They're basically empty calories. This is why habits must be examined and held up to the light. Some of them are maintaining their spot because you're just not paying attention. Number three, because you do not have and are not getting the results you want, which means some of your unconscious, consistent actions must change in order to create results. 85% of your life is based on your habits that are unconscious. The 15% are based on the things that you think about and you know about and you can talk about, but it's the 85% that make up the bulk of where your life is and who you are as a person. So if you want to change where your life is and who you are as a person, don't focus on the things that you're constantly thinking about all the time. Focus on the things that you're not always thinking about, the unconscious habits, actions, energies, thoughts, and that will change the foundation of everything, and everything else is going to change from the ground up. When you change these, everything else changes with it. And when you're ready to develop your game, whatever that game happens to be, it can be mental, it can be emotional, it can be tangible, it can be business, sports, whatever your game happens to be, you want to develop more of that game and get that game in the right place, and then create an opportunity to show the game and then show it and then get ROI for the game. And otherwise, create an exchange. You give this amount of game, you're going to get something back that matters to you, something tangible and real to you. And what you need to do is join us in the university at workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. The first thing you're going to get is access to the full Work on Your Game system. I went and codified everything that Work on Your Game is about, from the mindset stuff that you hear me talk about all the time on the show to the develop your game, show your game, get the ROI for your game. All of that is covered in a one system that you can follow. That's the first thing you're going to do as soon as you join. That's at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all day.